okay, if I can do all of those achievements, I know that now, oh my gosh, imagine what I can do now. I do know that there's a lot of like implicit or unconscious bias that I feel is put upon myself. And even now, sometimes when people are talking about a business owner, I catch myself being like, why do I think of a man? I think it was because I was in such an uncertain phase of my life. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. It kind of felt like an equal risk where it's like, okay, I either find a job or I take this other risk where I can be my own boss. I can create a company and a workspace that I've always wanted. And so like I have to try this different path and I just need to try something different.
So Amanda, from biology to business,
Yes.
how did that path look like?
Oh, it's an interesting one. Like, I graduated in biology in 2021, and for the longest time, up until like third year, I was very much like, I want to do med school, I want to do dentistry. I think like that's a pretty common thing. And I just realized that I felt that my whole heart wasn't really in it, and the dedication, I was like, okay, for some reason, there's some resistance there. And I just was super fortunate that practically a couple months before I was graduating, I got an invitation to join a startup company, and I was the first full-time hire of the startup company. And I don't know if people can relate to this. It's pretty insane being the first time employee of a startup company because it's practically just you and the owner, and you're like, let's make this work. So I was hired to mainly work on the business development side of the company, but as that, I was doing everything because I was just helping out where I could. So I was doing sales with cold calls, I was packaging the product, I was going to conferences, and I was doing their social media. And with social media, I just realized that there was so much we can do with just this one tool, right? Like we can promote the product, we can really nurture all of our customers, we can do our customer service, we can show testimonials, we can do all with social media. And so that's kind of how it kind of integrated into this marketing path. Yeah.
Wow. And then, in terms of launching your own business, that's a big step.
Yeah.
Like, biology, you couldn't have gotten any high paid job, but you chose to start your own business, and that takes a lot of courage. Why? It's risky financially. It's risky in general. Like it's very like uncertain.
Yeah.
Why?
I think it was because I was in such an uncertain phase of my life. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and it felt like anything in that way was a risk, right? Like if I were to get this full-time job that, had all the skills that I needed for it and I just locked into it, I would feel that I was locked into that. And so it kind of felt like an equal risk where it's like, okay, I either find a job that I stay at full time for maybe years, or I take this other risk where I can be my own boss. I can create a company and a workspace that I've always wanted. And so knowing that, these are the different paths that I can have, to me, with this equal sense of risk, I was like, I have to try this different path and I just need to try something different. Yeah.
That's so nice. And then you mentioned, social media is sort of an integral part of your day. Don't you get exhausted?
Oh my God, I do. I do. And with my personal social media, for anybody who follows me, I haven't posted since like June 2023, and that was for a Papaya Marketing post. I'm not a social media person personally in what I do, and I don't keep up with my posts and things like that. But when it comes to my clients' posts, it's just a work of labor, and I love seeing it come out. I have alarms on for any time a post goes on so that I go there, I like it, I see it, and make sure it's all good. And yeah, I think it can be draining, being always on your phone. But I do have pretty hard deadlines. I'm like, okay, at this time today, I'm just not going to be on my phone, let my eyes rest, and just, I guess, having that separation is always good. Yeah.
And then, what does Papaya Marketing exactly do?
What do we do? Good question. So we help businesses practically grow with their social media and connect with their community. So we do everything like the social media management and marketing. So we take their account, we create their strategy, their brand development, we do their content shoots, get all of that, create their graphics, their videos, their captions, hashtag, keywords, all of that good stuff. And the main thing that we do at the heart of it is just practically help businesses connect with their community.
And then imagine a new client coming to you. How do you start from scratch? What are the first steps?
Yeah. Again, like connection is just so important and really at the heart of what we do at Papaya, what I do in my personal life. And so the beginning is just getting to know the client, getting to know the business, understanding their values, their mission, why they're doing the thing that they're doing, why are they promoting the things that they are. And I think that is really the start of it, and that is a really good jumping board for, okay, now that we have all of that together, where do we want to go and how do we do that together?
Yeah. And then Papaya's tagline is from seed to success.
Yes.
You know, I'm actually very curious. So, firstly, why papaya, and then why this tagline?
Yeah, so that's so funny because we had a lot of people being like, why is your business called Papaya? That's a pretty weird name for a business in general. And it's because it's a kind of a weird name. It's because when my partner and I were starting the company, we spent a ridiculous amount of trying to figure out like what's the perfect name for a company, and we were thinking of something a little bit more like sophisticated, like Myriad, and we're like, what in the world like does that mean for a marketing agency? And we were throwing out all of these names, and just as a joke, I think one of us was like, or we can even call our business Papaya for God's sake. And I think after like a couple of weeks, we were like, we are just stuck on this name thing. Like for some reason, we can't do our social media. We can't do our website if we don't have a name. We just need to choose one. And we were kind of sitting there and thinking back of the list of names that we had. And of course, Papaya wasn't on the name or on our list. And we were like, that's the only one that stands out to us. That's the only one that has stuck throughout all of this. Let's just go with it. So that's kind of where we went with that.
That's amazing. When I saw like papaya, but then it's catchy because like people then want to open. It's like, what is this?
Yes, exactly.
So smart.
And it's funny, people, because they just remember that it's a fruit. Like I had people being like, is it mango, pineapple? I'm like, it's papaya. Yeah.
Speaking of papaya, in terms of digital marketing, it's evolving. Like everybody wants to start their business, and I think marketing has gone very easy than traditional marketing. There used to be like flyers, and I think social media is also more sustainable in terms of that. What are the biggest trends that you're seeing these days that you want to hop on, or you would suggest that people just like how do you sort of operate the social media?
Yeah, with like trends, I feel like a lot of businesses right now really need to get on finding mutually beneficial relationships with content creators. Like we mainly work with restaurants and with festivals, and we see that influencer marketing right now is like the biggest thing that I think all restaurants really, really need to get on, especially like nowadays with the explosion of content creators. There are so many people that have curated their content to a specific audience that businesses are trying to target. And so if you can make that relationship with that content creator that has your target audience already, you can really expand your reach.
And what about PR?
With PR. So in terms of like the trends with PR, a lot, honestly, we don't do too much PR with that. We do a lot of branding that goes with it, and we make sure that we always faction in PR, because I think PR and social media have really the same goals at the end of the day, with the terms of the branding, the communications, and the outreach, and really figuring out the needs of your audience. So I think it's just really tying those things together, and I feel like social media is the one that really has the ebbs and flows and the really quick pace evolving. Yeah.
And then, what makes your clients come back to you? Like, how do you establish a long-term brand loyalty?
Yeah, so I think it is really, really with the human connection. I think obviously the service speaks for itself and the results speaks for itself. But the thing that has retained all of our clients and has connected with these people is that they get to work with our team, and that's what's so unique about us is our unique personalities and the care that we put into it, because it's not just about, okay, like me and you, we're gonna go to business and this is what I'm gonna do. It's really not about that. It's let's understand where we both are at. Let's understand how we can help each other grow. And I think that's what really keeps our clients engaged with us is the care that we put into the connection.
The personalization, like
Yeah.
you're not offering ChatGPT.
Yes.
You're offering,
Yeah.
you're being the support system for them.
Yes.
I think that's very important for like businesses in general whenever you're working with them.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of your success stories, do you want to share a great success story with us?
Yeah. I think it's just like more of this overarching journey that I've been on with setting up Papaya. At the beginning of like the infant stages, really, really early on, I had some personal things that happened where I just wasn't in a good mental state. And I was still making sure, I was like, okay, I'm gonna still do the things I need to do for Papaya. I'm gonna get the things that I need to do for our clients. And I'm just gonna do what I can and do it the best I can. And the success that I have found in that, looking back at when I was in this stage of like a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, but still doing the things that I need to do, I can look back and think, oh my gosh, like, wow, I did all of that. I achieved all of that. Me and my partner, we set up our business. We got clients. We did amazingly well. We retained all of them, even when I wasn't at like the best state that I was. And so now that I'm here, I'm like feeling good. I'm in a good mental, healthy state. And looking at that, I'm like, okay, if I can do all of those achievements, I know that now, oh my gosh, imagine what I can do now. And that's just been the biggest like achievement that I could have is just knowing that I can do anything. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
How do you work or how do you sort of fulfill your commitments when you're feeling low? Because as an entrepreneur, you're the one leading. And even if you're on, you're just on the verge of just giving up, I think you have to stay strong. How did you work when you were low?
Oh, that's a really good question. A lot of gratitude, I think, is what really helped in those times that I felt really low. A lot of gratitude for the hard work that I have been putting in and not feeling down about, okay, right now I may not feel like putting in hard work, but I'm grateful for everything that I have set up and the hard work that my team has done, the connections that we have made. And just being grateful for all of those things helped me say, okay, it's really not as bad as it seems. I will get through this. And it just kind of helps you think about it as a whole. And also just trusting yourself, really trusting that I will get through this. I can get through this. I know that I've done this before and trust that I've done all of these, so I can do this. It might take some time, but give yourself a break when you need to and then get back up and you're gonna hit the ground running.
Yay! But talking about challenges, as a woman entrepreneur, you deal with a lot. I just know it. Any specific experiences that you would like to share?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there was any specific experience that like happened to me, which I'm very grateful for. But I do know that there's a lot of like implicit or unconscious bias that I feel is put upon myself. I think even back then when I was thinking of going to med or dentistry, when someone would talk about like a surgeon, I would catch myself being like, why do I picture it as a man and not a woman? And I always thought that was interesting. And even now, sometimes when people are talking about a business owner, I catch myself being like, why do I think of a man? And so I think it's just, since childhood, when things are just brought up the way that we are, like women get to play with these toys, men get to play with these toys. Already that's kind of setting you up for that unconscious bias. And so I think that's the biggest challenge that I've had to deal with is overcoming that and also just surrounding myself with other women entrepreneurs so that I can have that reminder and being like, you are kicking this business's butt and you're doing it amazingly and you're a woman. And also looking in the mirror and just being like, you are a woman entrepreneur and you are killing it and you are doing all the things that right now you may not think that you can do. And I think that's a thing that I've really been working on to like overcome. Yeah.
And then although you've mentioned that, but in general, what do you think there are some misconceptions or maybe biases that women entrepreneurs face?
Yeah, I think sometimes like people think that women entrepreneurs won't take risk or like smart risk. And I feel that, you're kind of stuck in this catch 22, right? Like either I don't take that risk and people are going to be like, she's playing it too safe. She's never going to grow the company by just staying too safe. Or you take the risk and people are going to question like, why are you doing that? Did you even give it any thought? Like this makes no sense. But I think it really comes down to just, again, like trusting yourself in it and being like, giving it thought and being like, okay, like what risk am I taking? How can I reduce like the risk factors? And then how can I strategically move forward from this? Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes even I am told, why, like, yay. I don't listen to
No.
more things. Entrepreneurship I've always seen that it requires sacrifices. Any particular sacrifice that you had to make?
Yeah. I think this is a really good question because I think there are some personal sacrifices that come with starting any business. I think it has to do with relationships, and I don't mean that you won't have time to nurture and love your loved ones. I think the sacrifice you have to make with the relationships are the people who don't fully believe in you and support you. Because when you're starting a business, that's like your baby, right? And there are going to be people who don't cheer you on. There are going to be people who don't want to celebrate your successes. And that's the people that I think you have to sacrifice, because everything that you put into your business is like your love and your nurturing, and there's so much mental capacity and energy you need to put into that. And if there's somebody who is telling you constantly like, you're not going to succeed, you're doing these things wrong, yeah, that mistake that you made was stupid, it's just going to make your life so much more difficult. Yeah.
That's so true. No, because even with the podcast, we face like on a daily basis, like just people. There's a difference between giving constructive criticism and just like unnecessary hate. And then we face that and we're like, oh, one more.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it?
Oh, how do I deal with it? Just really knowing your value. Really, really knowing your value and having your own back. I mean, these are things that I'm saying right now, but these are things that I'm constantly learning how to do and challenging myself to grow from, because at the end of the day, like, there's always going to be criticism, no matter what you do. Even if you do it perfectly, somebody's going to have an issue with it. You can't please everybody. But if you can, at the end of the day, say, I tried my best. I did what I thought was best. I, showed up in the best way that I could, and I trust myself that I will do that again and again and again, then I think, there's no stopping you. Yeah.
Are there moments of self-doubt for you?
Oh, absolutely. Like, how can there not be? Like, when you're starting a business, like, especially in the early stages, there's so many decisions that you have to make, so many. And you're going to constantly think, like, that wasn't the right one, or, this one could have had a better outcome. But at the end of the day, like, you can't get stuck on that, or else you're never going to move forward. Yeah.
When things get tough, how do you stay resilient?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to just like the gratitude and being grateful, because like if it helps me think about all the things that I am grateful for so that I can move forward. I think if you're not taking the time to acknowledge the achievements and acknowledge what you are doing and acknowledge the people that are cheering you on, it's gonna feel really tough. It's gonna feel like you're not gonna be able to do it and there's no springing back from it. But
You're alone.
yeah, exactly. And so being resilient just means to me like having your own back, trusting yourself, being grateful for everything that has come and everything that will come. Yeah.
Now, in terms of sort of your support system that you've mentioned, how supportive were your friends and family when you told them, here's the thing, biology, sorry, I have to go. What was their reaction, and then how did they eventually sort of come up with the idea? Like, okay.
Well, it was funny though, because when I was practically telling people like, I'm gonna be trying this different thing, we're gonna be trying to do this marketing, nobody was really surprised, because even when I was going into biology, after I accepted going into UBC, people were surprised about that, and they were like, oh, like I kind of expected you to go into business. And I thought that was really interesting, because coming back now and going from biology business, nobody was really surprised. I think they always were like, you kind of come off as the person that would be able to speak and be able to chat and be able to have that business front. So it was weirdly not as surprising.
Okay, so everybody like knew.
Everybody was like, okay, this kind of makes sense.
In terms of your business and in terms of marketing, what do you think the future holds for marketing? Especially if we continue with the technological advancements. How do you envision Papaya Marketing sort of staying involved, or maybe sort of ahead in terms of like maybe competition? How do you think that? Let's start with, what do you think the future of marketing holds?
Yeah, I think that AI is just like rapidly coming up, and it's crazy how fast it is just continuously growing. And I think AI will definitely be where everybody is pivoting with. With Papaya, like, I mean, we're already using AI already with like our scheduling programs, with our graphic design programs, and even with like ChatGPT. In terms of like how we integrate that, is that ChatGPT is a really interesting one for social media, because I think you kind of have like two different sides. You have the one side where it's like, let's use ChatGPT to create our schedules, to create our posts, create our captions, and then boom, we're done. And then you have the other side who's like, we absolutely will never touch ChatGPT. It's not real, it's not authentic, we're not gonna touch it. But we're trying to fall right in the middle of it, where we test it out. We say, okay, what can it do and how well can it do it? What we have found is like, it doesn't write captions well. It doesn't really create like content well. It doesn't really create schedules well. But what it does really well is like using it as a sounding board, as like a brainstorming ideas, like, hey, this is kind of what I want to do. These are the elements that I want to do it. Let's chat about it. Get your brain started, exactly. And it's just practically another person in a conversation that you can kind of bounce ideas off of. But I think to use it as like a copywriter or a social media manager, I don't think it's there yet, perhaps. But it's always interesting. I mean, we're always checking out new AIs and seeing how we can integrate it, but you always need to do it smartly, because at the end of the day, social media, you need to be authentic. And with AI, at the point that it is right now, it doesn't really hit that mark.
Do you fear that sometimes there might be a time where people even don't need marketing agencies?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a concern when we started our agency, because AI was coming up so quickly. But again, with the ethos and the philosophy that we have with Papaya, when connection is key, I don't think that AI can ever really replace that. I think that at the end of the day, you can have AI do these things. You definitely can. But it depends on the value. It depends on what is coming out of this, because with Papaya, like, all we want to do is get to know you, get to know your audience, and create this beautiful connection. But AI is just saying, okay, these are all the different things, and I'm just gonna spit out
Use
this. Yeah, use this. Any restaurant can use this, truly, right? And every restaurant's different, every business is different, and that's something that we really take to heart.
I also think personalization differentiates a business.
Yeah.
Like the amount of effort that the founder is willing to put, AI is not. AI is giving like 10,000 businesses the same thing.
Yes.
But one business who's using that sort of personalization, I think stands out.
Yes.
So yay!
Yeah.
One of my last questions for you would be any advice for young entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think we were kind of chatting about this. It's like get that practical experience, really go out there and try the thing that you want to do, right? Whether it is shadowing and just kind of seeing the day-to-day of the person, or interning, or volunteering, anything to actually get into that position or that field. Because you can read about what it's like to be a social media manager, you can watch YouTube videos, you can do all of these things, but at the end of the day, it's like you will never know if you truly want it until you're there, until you're actually doing it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Amanda.
Yeah,
That's
thank
great
you.
advice, and that was a great podcast. Thank you so much for coming
Okay,
in.
thank
Yay!
you.
That's a wrap. How'd you like it?
That was fun.
Really good.